Greetings and thank you for taking the time to view this briefing titled Communist China Rise to Pure Adversary. I'm an intelligence officer with the Indiana Air National Guard, bringing both extensive experience and insights on this topic. This presentation will explore how China's rise, facilitated by unconventional strategies in military, economic, cyber, diplomatic, and informational tactics, has created a challenge for the U.S. not only in the Indo Pacific region but on a global stage. Before we get started, it's important to note that this briefing aligns with the Adjutant General's core priorities of training and modernization. Together, these efforts reflect the TAC's commitment to ensuring we are trained, equipped, and modernized to meet future challenges. I must also clarify that this briefing focuses on the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, and the People's Liberation Army, the PLA, not the Chinese people themselves. The Chinese people are a diverse, hard-working population, and many are deeply dissatisfied with the CCP's authoritarian rule. In fact, only about 7% of the population are members of the CCP, underscoring the disconnect between the regime and broader population. However, the CCP and PLA pose a serious threat to the United States and our allies. Their activities span cyber attacks, intellectual property theft, human rights abuses, and aggressive military expansion. It's critical that we stay aware of these threats to take proactive measures to counter them. With that understanding in mind, let's dive deeper into the strategies and challenges associated with the CCP's rise as a pure adversary. China is one of the world's oldest civilizations, dating back to 1250 BC. Have a long history of powerful dynasties such as the Han, Tang, Song, and Ming. The Qing dynasty marked both a period of prosperity and the beginning of decline. At its peak during the 1730s to 1790s, Qing China was a powerful global entity. However, the Opium Wars signaled a shift. China's attempt to curb British opium trafficking resulted in military defeat, forcing them into unequal treaties with Britain and France. This period is often referred to in China as the Century of Shame. This has shaped how the CCP has viewed the world today, driving their pursuit of national revival and power on the global stage. Modern China's distrust of the West began during World War I. China supported the Allies, expecting a return to the Shandong Peninsula, the birthplace of Confucius. However, the Treaty of Versailles in 1919 awarded Shandong to Japan, citing existing treaties which outraged the Chinese people. This betrayal fueled resentment towards Western ideals and led to an internal upheaval, with accusations that the Chinese government had sold out the nation, resulting in the rise of numerous warlords. By 1915, intellectuals like Shang Duxing called for the revolution to rejuvenate the nation. By 1921, disillusioned with Western democracy, China began turning towards communism, setting the stage for the rise of the CCP. More recently, the U.S. has played a significant role in China's economic rise. In 1972, President Nixon's visit opened the door for Western countries to engage with China. By 1980s, U.S. corporations began offshoring operations to China, and by 1994, the first Chinese company was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. By 2001, President Clinton pushed for a World Trade Organization integration of China. Despite early hopes for integration, U.S.-China relations soured with incidents like the Belgrade embassy bombing and the Hainan Island incident. By 2013, under President Xi Jinping, China began to distance itself from the liberal world order, focusing on stealing and developing advanced weapon systems. Today, 262 Chinese companies are listed on U.S. exchanges with over $1 trillion in capitalization, yet SEC oversight remains limited. Meanwhile, 62 military companies now operate within the U.S., posing a serious national security risk. These companies operating in the United States include popular mobile technology leader Huawei, as well as companies in many scientific, industrial, energy, and logistics industries. China's long-term objectives, driven by the CCP, are ambitious and strategic. By 2021, China aimed to establish a modern and prosperous society with targeted poverty reduction. By 2025, the goal is to match the world as the most advanced technological power. Looking ahead to 2035, China seeks to become a modern, socialist power with a robust middle-income population and a modernized military. By the 100th anniversary of the PRC, the CCP's ultimate vision is the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. This includes becoming a nation with global influence and fostering a community of common destiny supported by the world's second largest army. These milestones reflect China's intent to reshape the global order on its own terms. So that begs the question, why is China challenging the United States now? China's challenge to the West stems from the belief that it is a global primary leader. The US-led world order is an anomaly, not the norm. The CCP sees the mission as setting history right by restoring China's historical dominance. President Xi Jinping has emphasized that since the Opium Wars, Chinese people have sought a great national rejuvenation. The CCP's narrative declares that the East is rising and the West is falling, and China will no longer tolerate being bullied by any foreign power. This worldview drives its strategic ambitions, increasing their assertiveness across the globe. Now let's dig into some specifics of how China is outcompeting the United States on several fronts. The main war that China is waging on the United States is that of one called unrestricted warfare. In 1999, PLA colonels introduced the concept of unrestricted warfare, advocating for a multifaceted approach to compete with the United States. This strategy emphasizes that military might is just one aspect of warfare. It includes both legal and economic factors. Key components of this approach include narcotics, cyber attacks, technology warfare, and information warfare. Additionally, it encompasses legal warfare, resource exploitation, and societal infiltration. The aim is to outcompete commercially, steal wealth, and engage in monetary warfare, including debt diplomacy and propaganda. This comprehensive strategy illustrates China's intent to undermine its adversaries through means beyond traditional military conflict. Starting first with the concept of infiltration warfare. From 2021 to 2023, a staggering increase in the number of Chinese migrants entering the United States from 23,000 to 53,000 was seen. The majority of these individuals are single military-age males. Between January and September 2023, U.S. Border Patrol arrested approximately 22,000 Chinese migrants. In September 2023, 5 U.S. senators raised concerns in a letter to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary, warning that these individuals could potentially engage in espionage or cyber attacks against U.S. critical infrastructure, government agencies, and private sector entities. This underscores the pressing threat posed by unrestricted warfare tactics. In 2023, Chinese nationals became the 4th highest population crossing through the Darien Gap. Panamanian immigration authorities registered 15,567 Chinese citizens making this treacherous journey in just 8 months. This is a dramatic increase to 2005 in 2022. Lastly, it's noted Chinese migrants can enter through Ecuador without a visa, allowing them to join the mass migration groups headed to the U.S., highlighting a concerned trend in infiltration tactics. Moving on to biological warfare, in July 2023, a significant discovery was made at Prestige Biotech, an undercover Chinese lab in Fresno, California. Here, over 1,000 mice were infected with various pathogens including HIV, E. coli, malaria, and COVID-19. Over 20 other infectious agents were also identified in the lab, such as hepatitis B and C, streptococcus, pneumonia, chlamydia, rubella, herpes types 1 and 5. This lab is located just 43 minutes from NAS Lemoore, the U.S. Navy's master jet base in the Pacific, raising alarm about the lack of regulation, permits, and registration in private labs. This situation underscores the real possibility of dangerous biological agents being housed on U.S. soils, posing a significant national security risk. From a narcotics standpoint, the roots of narcotics warfare in China traces all the way back to Zhao Enlai, the first premier of Communist China who oversaw opium trafficking operations in the 1950s and 60s. Mikhail Suslov noticed that Zhao aimed to disarm the Nationalist Party by exploiting their vices. Today, fentanyl has emerged as a secret weapon to destabilize the United States, with Chinese labs partnering with Mexican cartels to flood the market. The porous U.S.-Mexican and U.S.-Canadian borders facilitate this influx. Fentanyl is now the leading cause of death in Americans under 50, resulting in 162 overdoses per day. In Indiana, the number one drug problem is a multi-drug overdose of meth and heroin laced with fentanyl, as reported by the Indiana State Police. Cyber access and attack is one of the main tenets of China's warfare structure. In May 2023, it was revealed that Chinese state-sponsored hackers, particularly the group Volt Typhoon, have compromised critical cyber infrastructure across various sectors. Operating since 2021, Their prior efforts primarily targeted Guam's infrastructure, including communications, manufacturing, utilities, transportation, construction, maritime, and government systems. As of February 2024, they've infiltrated IT environments of multiple U.S. critical infrastructure organizations, affecting communications, energy, transportation, and water systems. The goal is to pre-position for potential disruptive or destructive attacks during a major crisis or conflict with the U.S. Director Jen Easterly of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency emphasized the need for Americans to be prepared for the likelihood that Beijing's hackers may evade U.S. defenses and cause real damage in the physical world. Social media has also become a huge weapon for China as well. In June 2023, Yin Taoyu, a former employee of ByteDance and TikTok, revealed alarming practices involving the use of God credentials to bypass all privacy protections. This highlights significant vulnerabilities in social media platforms. Additionally, Temu is rapidly capturing the United States e-commerce market, offering discount prices and duty-free shipping for purchases under $800, which limits customs declarations and inspections. However, this also enables a supply chain reliant on slave labor. Moreover, China's cyber laws raise concerns as they may allow access to sensitive data, including biometrics, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi networks. These permissions can bypass user consent, modify settings, view data from other apps, and even prevent uninstallation, posing serious risks to privacy and security. China has successfully utilized propaganda to sway worldviews as well. In June 2023, the PLA released a 2-minute video portraying itself as a global entity dedicated to good. This video depicts China's military as selfless missionaries and humanitarians striving for global peace. Going all the way back to 2021, a New York Times and ProPublica study highlighted how the CCP conducted an influencing campaign showing videos of ethnic minorities in Xinjiang denying reports of repressive government policies. Over 3,000 videos were part of this effort. By September 2023, the U.S. State Department issued a warning about Communist China's expanding attempts to control information, labeling it digital authoritarianism. This represents a significant increase in efforts to reshape the global information environment, with billions being spent on global influence. When looking at how both information and technology theft has occurred, by June 2022, FBI Director Chris Wray warned that China aims to ransack the intellectual property of Western companies to accelerate its industrial development and dominate key industries. He noted that China's surveillance extends from large corporations in big cities to startups in small towns, targeting sectors from aviation to AI, academia, and pharmaceuticals. In one example of this, in January 2023, the Department of Justice sentenced a former GE power engineer, Mr. Shang, for economic espionage. As a U.S. citizen, he concealed confidential files stolen from GE in the binary code of a digital photograph of a sunset employing stenography. This information, worth millions, was sent to an accomplice in China and would benefit the government and various Chinese companies and universities. How can all of this happen, you ask? Well, China's business practices are far different than those in the United States. The CCP governs all activities that Chinese businesses may undertake. If you're doing business with a Chinese company, you have to assume you're also doing business with the Communist China Party. For the past several election cycles, China has positioned itself to influence worldwide results as well. In December 2023, the National Intelligence Council declassified a report highlighting foreign threats to the U.S. 2022 elections. This intelligence community assessment that China tactically approved efforts to influence midterm races involving members of both political parties in the United States. The 2024 elections reveal similar and deeper levels of influence by China. In April 2023, a clandestine network emerged revealing that China backed as many as 11 Canadian candidates in federal elections during 2019 and 2021 by directing funds directly to them. Lead Canadian investigator David Johnson recommended against a public inquiry, asserting that Canada did not ignore evidence of Chinese meddling. However, by June of 2023, he was reassigned due to political pressures and investigating into his charitable ties to Chinese organization. This situation underscores China's commitment to influencing foreign elections. Now let's turn back to one of the main unrestricted warfare tenets China likes to use in cyber warfare. In October 2023, Dr. Benjamin Jensen testified before the House Judiciary Subcommittee, detailing how the Chinese Communist Party utilizes cyber espionage to undermine the U.S. economy. Since 2000, the CCP has been linked to over 90 cyber espionage incidents, which is 30% more than reported by Russia, as the second largest state-sponsored cyber group. One notable operation, Operation Cuckoo Bees, carried out by the Winetti Group, also known as APT-41 or Wicked Panda, successfully exfiltrated vast amounts of intellectual property from various companies. The stolen data aligns with China's Made in China 2025 initiative, involving trillions in lost intellectual property, including blueprints and manufacturing technologies. Additionally, targeted account credentials such as username and passwords were stolen and are likely intended for future kinetic cyber operations. As we stay in the technology realm, let's explore how artificial intelligence is becoming a key element in China's strategy. In July 2023, Alexander Wang highlighted that China is directing the full power of its industrial might towards AI, with the Chinese government investing 3 times as much as the United States in this critical area. Dr. Benjamin Jensen, who we just mentioned previously, cautioned that if the United States doesn't lead in AI, it risks ceding global influence and technology leadership to adversaries like China. He warned that cyber espionage by the CCP is likely to escalate as generative AI proliferates, turning entrepreneurs with innovative ideas into potential targets for theft. This technology will empower the CCP to create advanced malware, further jeopardizing the American economy through sustained intellectual property theft. Furthermore, in June 2023, the Cyberspace Administration of China released a draft outlining measures for managing generative AI services, demonstrating China's proactive approach to AI governance. In contrast to that, in December 2023, the European Union agreed on the world's first major legislation regulating AI. However, the U.S. has yet to seriously consider sweeping federal legislation to govern AI usage, and substantial state-led regulations are also lacking. This regulatory gap may hinder the U.S. ability to compete with China's rapid advancements in AI, further emphasizing the urgency for a comprehensive strategy in this critical domain. Let's now turn to the CCP threats to U.S. intelligence and infrastructure. Looking at China's influencing abroad, in April 2023, it's revealed that an undeclared police station was operated by the Chinese Ministry of Public Security and was functioning within an office building in Manhattan's Chinatown. Shockingly, no individuals were registered with the Justice Department as agents of a foreign government. Assistant Attorney General Matthew G. Olson noted that this operation represented a secret physical presence established by the PRC to monitor and intimidate dissidents and critics of the Chinese government. This incident highlights the lengths to which the CCP will go to exert control and influence beyond its borders, raising serious concerns about national security and human rights. China's foreign reach has large implications for foreign investments near critical infrastructure as well. In February 2023, the Fufang Group's proposed corn mill in Grand Forks, North Dakota was denied, despite signing a deal for potentially $700 million in May 2022. Investigations revealed deep ties to the CCP, raising significant national security concerns. The U.S. Air Force warned first that this project poses a significant security threat. Major Brandon Boshensky expressed frustration with the federal government's slow and contradictory response, highlighting worries about other entities with Chinese connections, such as the nearby Sirius aircraft site and the University of North Dakota's Chinese students and professors. More recently, and in response to just this type of warfare, Indiana introduced and passed House Bill 1183 to address these security concerns. Chinese espionage capabilities also reside within our hemisphere. In June 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported on an agreement establishing an electronic eavesdropping base in Cuba. This base aims to spy on American communications across the southeast United States. Additionally, the presence of Chinese military training facility in Cuba raises significant alarms, potentially leading to the stationing of Chinese troops in close proximity to the U.S. shores. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken emphasized that the U.S. harbors serious concerns about this escalating activity in Cuba, which stresses the strategic implications for national security. China has used many other alarming methods to spy on the U.S. homeland as well. In February 2023, a Chinese spy balloon traversed U.S. soil, utilizing a low-cost platform to gather intelligence over the U.S. mainland. It took just 1 week to cross from China, flying at 60,000 feet. This balloon loitered over specifically critical U.S. nuclear sites and was equipped with SIGINT, or Signals Intelligence Sensors. Moreover, as of September 2023, U.S. service members have been targeted by the CCP with reports of foreign companies seeking access to military knowledge and capabilities. Disturbingly, incidents of unauthorized access to military bases by individuals posing as tourists have been documented, highlighting another serious national security threat. The next series of slides will dive into the massive buildup of China's military and their capabilities expansion across the globe. China has modernized and built up their military on a scale the world hasn't seen in over 100 years. Not since World War II have we seen this type of expansion and capabilities. At the turn of the millennia, China had positioned itself as a coastal defense military force primarily focused on protecting the East China Sea. During this time, you can see that the U.S. enjoyed a significant military advantage in the Indo Pacific area. Fast forward 25 years and the advantage is all but gone. The PLA has more military might in the Pacific than all the United States and allies can muster together. As a matter of fact, all the United States assets and resources in the Pacific fall under China's Anti-Access Area Denial, or A2AD, umbrella with China, utilizing such capabilities as air defense systems, surface-to-air missile systems, anti-ship missile systems, and cyber and electronic attack systems. China's anti-ship capabilities are fairly advanced in the region as well. The DF-26 Bravo and the DF-21 Delta, along with the YJ-21, represent a significant threat as intermediate-range ballistic missiles designed for anti-ship warfare. These weapons can be equipped with either nuclear or conventional warheads and have a striking range of 1,500 to 4,000 nautical miles. Moreover, they achieve a remarkable speed of Mach 5 to 7, making them extremely difficult to intercept. As a result, there are limited capabilities within the U.S. military to track and neutralize these advanced missile systems, raising serious concerns around regional security and the balance of power in Indo-Pacific. When comparing the United States and China navies, the PRC has a larger fleet in terms of total vessels, but the U.S. maintains a superior number of aircraft carriers and destroyers. China's shipbuilding capability and capacity poses a significant challenge, however. With 13 shipyards compared to the U.S. 7, China's largest shipyard alone has a greater capacity than all U.S. shipyards combined. Additionally, China's labor structure, characterized by minimal labor laws, allows for uninterrupted production without manpower shortages. Over the next 2 years, China plans to add 60 more vessels, bringing their total to approximately 400, indicating a rapid expansion that the Pentagon is closely monitoring. When looking at China's recent advancements in military aviation technology, the PL-15 air-to-air missile represents a significant upgrade, boasting capabilities that surpass the current U.S. AIM-120 AMRAAM. With its longer range, the PL-15 has the potential to engage U.S. fighter aircraft first. In response, the U.S. is developing the AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile, but it remains in the development phase without an IOC capability date. Budget constraints and continuing resolutions complicate funding for this critical program. Additionally, as of June 2023, China has begun producing its own J-20 fighter jet engines, specifically the Zhan-built Wushan 15 ME engines, marking a milestone for domestic military aviation capabilities in China. The PLA Air Force has significantly adopted modern aircraft across various categories, including fighters, bombers, unmanned aerial vehicles, and airborne early warning systems. A standout feature is the Y-20 transport aircraft and its variant, the Y-20U tanker, which enhance global deployment capabilities. The Y-20U, first flown in March 2019, can carry up to 90 tons of fuel, a considerable upgrade from the current HU-6 tanker, which only holds 30. This improvement enables the PLA Air Force and Navy to expand their loiter times and overall operational ranges significantly. Lastly, the nuclear race with China is rapidly closing, with the U.S. constrained by treaties with Russia to just 1,550 nuclear warheads. In contrast, China is estimated to have 1,516 nuclear warheads currently. Given the ongoing production capabilities, projections indicate that China could exceed 3,500 warheads by 2040. Furthermore, China possesses more intercontinental ballistic missile launchers than the U.S. when considering both fixed and mobile platforms. As the PLA expands its nuclear capabilities, concerns grow that the U.S. nuclear deterrence factor may be diminishing, impacting the balance of power in the region. When looking at a higher clearance level, the story doesn't get any better. If anything, it gets a little bit worse. All right, now let's transition to China's new Silk Road and the U.S. perspective on these initiatives, as well as the current diplomatic situation. China's ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, was announced by President Xi Jinping in 2013. This massive international infrastructure program spans nearly 140 countries and 30 international organizations. The BRI aims to construct a global network of infrastructure that facilitates trade, investment, and connectivity with China. It includes both the land-based Silk Road Economic Belt and the sea-based 21st Century Maritime Silk Road, with an estimated $1 trillion in projects across various sectors, such as energy, transport, and technology. Additionally, initiatives like the Digital Silk Road and Health Silk Road expand its reach, making the BRI a powerful tool for China to support its foreign and economic policies globally. The Belt and Road Initiative represents a significant implication for the United States as it allows China to expand its influence across critical regions globally, potentially reshaping international trade routes, economic partnerships. This initiative can lead to increased dependency and participating countries on Chinese investment and infrastructure, thereby enhancing China's geopolitical leverage. As we examine China's strategic posture, it's essential to recognize that the CCP has already framed its conflict with the United States not as a conventional war, but as a people's war. In 2019, the People's Daily, China's most influential newspaper, proclaimed this notion, highlighting a cultural and ideological battle. Fast forward to 2022. President Xi Jinping established a war cabinet to navigate what he described as high winds and waves in international relations. Most recently, in his New Year's Eve speech on December 2023, President Xi reiterated that the reunification of Taiwan is inevitable, calling for all Chinese to reunite for the rejuvenation of their nation. This rhetoric signals a growing resolve that poses strategic challenges for the U.S. and the Indo Pacific region. This raises the question, do our U.S. and Indiana citizens know that the CCP is waging a people's war against us? Are our citizens armed with the right information to protect our economic and military advantages? In January 2024, Representative Jim Banks emphasized the need for cities like Fort Wayne and Carmel to sever ties with their sister cities in China. He pointed out that China has effectively utilized these sister city agreements to pressure foreign politicians into endorsing its one China policy, which can undermine U.S. interests. This call to action reflects a broader concern about China's influence and its implications for American sovereignty and values, suggesting that citizens are increasingly informed about geopolitical dynamics at play. So with all this being said, what's the future outlook for U.S.-China relations? As we explore that dynamic, it's essential to consider the concept of the Thucydides trap. A 2012 study revealed that among 16 historical instances where an emerging power challenged a ruling power, 12 ended in war. Interestingly, the impetus for these conflicts often stemmed not from the imminent threat of a homogenic war being surpassed, but rather from the emerging power reacting aggressively as its rapid rise transitioned into stagnation. As a nation approaches its peak, economic slowdowns or opposition coalitions can instill a sense of imminent danger, promoting aggressive actions from the revisionist power like China. This scenario underscores the risk of a long rise followed by a sharp decline, making the stakes in a U.S.-China relation incredibly high. So with that being said, does that mean that China is declining? Well, since the onset of COVID-19, China has lost its status as a reliable hub for offshoring manufacturing. In fact, half of U.S. manufacturing CEOs are now planning to reshore some operations back to the United States. Additionally, in 2022, the U.S. emerged as the world leader in foreign direct investment, while China's figures continue to decline. This shift not only reflects challenging attitudes towards China as a manufacturing partner, but also signifies a potential turning point in global economics dynamics. China is also facing a significant population decline, with a shrinking birth rate and an aging demographic. In 2022, the country reported its first population drop in decades, largely due to the legacy of the one-child policy, which has led to an imbalanced gender ratio and fewer young people. By 2050, nearly one-third of the population is projected to be over the age of 60, posing challenges for the workforce and social services. This demographic shift could hinder economic growth, increase labor costs, and create social instability as the government struggles to support the elderly and address youth unemployment. It's also crucial to note that China is increasingly reliant on imports for both food and energy. In recent years, China has become the world's largest importer of soybeans, wheat, and corn, as domestic production struggles to meet the demands of its vast population. Additionally, the nation imports significant amounts of crude oil and natural gas to fuel its industrial growth and energy needs. This dependence on foreign resources poses risks to China's food security and energy stability, making the nation vulnerable to global market fluctuations and geopolitical tensions. As a result, China is actively seeking to diversify its supply across using their allies and secure long-term agreements to ensure its needs are met while striving to make greater self-sufficiency, while the U.S. continues to push sanctions, making that endeavor challenging for China. So what can be done to curb this competition? Well, first and foremost, validation and legislation to address illegal drugs and their use throughout Indiana, PRC government-backed companies acquiring resources in Indiana, social media policies and protections within Indiana, protections for both their academic and intellectual properties in the state of Indiana, and the registration, inspection, and documentation of labs across Indiana as a start. Lastly, continued support and resources for the Indiana National Guard to maintain, improve, and ensure that their readiness and mission sets are growing to counter the PLA threats is a must. Thank you again for taking the time to learn about Communist China and their rise to pure adversary. I hope you found this content enlightening and informative, and it leads to an open dialogue over U.S.-China relations moving into 2025.